the South China Sea. A powder keg once again. At Scarborough Shoal, a Philippine vessel delivering supplies came under a violent barrage of Chinese water cannons. Glass shattered, sailors injured, and tensions soaring. Beijing calls it control measures. Manila calls it aggression. This is the new flashpoint in Asia's contested waters. The waters off Scarborough Shoal erupted in confrontation on September 16th. A Philippine government vessel, the BRP Datu Gumbay Piang, tasked with delivering supplies to Filipino fishermen, was suddenly caught in a barrage of water cannon fire from Chinese Coast Guard ships. The clash follows China's approval last week of plans to designate the shoal as a national nature reserve. A move defence analysts say is a direct test of Manila's response over the 150 square kilometre triangle of reefs and rocks. Philippines media reported that the vessel belonged to the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources and had set sail on a supply run, part of Manila's direct purchase program meant to support fishermen working near the contested shoal. But shortly after 9 a.m. local time, according to the Philippine Coast Guard, the mission turned dangerous. Phil Star reported that 2 Chinese ships, identified as CCG 521 and CC 2015-62, moved in aggressively, closing distance east of the shoal. Then came the water blasts. One Chinese vessel aimed directly at the starboard side of the Gumbay Piang, while another targeted the port side. The strikes were not harmless sprays, they were high-pressure bursts with devastating impact. The blasts shattered glass on the ship's bridge, ripped through partitions in the captain's cabin, and caused a short circuit that disabled 5 air conditioning units and several electrical outlets. Caught in the chaos, one Filipino crew member was injured by shards of shattered glass.
This aggressive action lasted for about 29 minutes, resulting in significant damage, including shattered glass from the aft window of the bridge, damage to the captain's cabin partitions, and a short circuit affecting electrical outlets and 5 outdoor air conditioning units. 1 personnel from DAB FAR sustained injuries due to the shattered glass caused by the water cannon.
But the danger didn't end there. A third Chinese vessel, this time a maritime militia ship identified as CMM 001, entered the scene. It attempted to hit the Philippine vessel with its own water cannon while performing what the PCG described as hazardous maneuvers. In an evasive dance at sea, the crew of the Gumbay Piang managed to steer away, executing safety maneuvers that allowed them to avoid further damage. Still, the harassment continued, with Chinese vessels shadowing the Philippine ship as it attempted to withdraw to safer waters. Despite the damage, the mission did not collapse. The Gumbay Piang regrouped with 9 other Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources ships and resumed its crucial supply run, providing fuel and provisions to more than 35 Filipino fishing boats waiting nearby. This was not just a supply mission. It was a show of resolve in waters Manila insists fall within its exclusive economic zone, and Beijing insists are its own. While the Philippines described the incident as an act of aggression, Beijing painted a very different picture. The China Coast Guard accused Manila of provocation, claiming more than 10 Philippine vessels had illegally invaded what China considers its territorial waters at Huangyandao, Beijing's name for Scarborough Shoal. According to CCG spokesperson Gan Yu, one particular Philippine vessel, hull number 3014, ignored repeated warnings and even collided with a Chinese ship.
The Philippine vessel disregarded solemn warnings from the Chinese side and deliberately rammed a Chinese Coast Guard vessel. The China Coast Guard lawfully implemented control measures against the Philippine ships.
Gan said these measures included verbal warnings, restrictions on navigation routes, and the use of water cannons to drive away what Beijing called intruding ships. To back its claim, China released video footage. In it, the bow of a Philippine vessel appears to make contact with a Chinese Coast Guard ship while being blasted with water cannon. Beijing portrayed this as evidence of Manila's so-called malicious provocation. But Manila disputed that narrative entirely. The Philippine Coast Guard insisted its ships were carrying out a humanitarian mission to resupply fishermen, not provoke conflict. Officials also said the idea that a Philippine vessel intentionally rammed a much larger Chinese ship is absurd. The Philippine Maritime Council went further, dismissing China's statement as a fabrication. There is no truth in China's statement that it had taken control measures. This is another case of Chinese disinformation and propaganda. This war of words is not new. For years, every clash near Scarborough Shoal has been accompanied by dueling statements. Beijing claiming it was forced to defend its sovereignty, Manila accusing China of harassment and coercion. But what makes this incident stand out is the timing, just days after China unveiled plans for a sweeping new project at the shoal. The latest clash at sea can't be separated from Beijing's bigger strategy. Less than a week before the water cannon incident, China unveiled plans to create a vast nature reserve at Scarborough Shoal. According to Chinese authorities, the reserve would span more than 3,500 hectares with core and experimental zones to protect coral reefs. On paper, it's about ecology. In practice, Manila says it's about control. The Philippines swiftly rejected the plan as illegal, pointing to the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea and the 2016 arbitral ruling that dismissed Beijing's sweeping claims in the South China Sea. Manila's National Security Council believes the project is a pretext for an eventual Chinese occupation. Scarborough Shoal may be small, but its significance is huge. Just 200 kilometers off the Philippine coast and well within Manila's exclusive economic zone, it has been under de facto Chinese control since a tense standoff in 2012. Coast Guard vessels and trawlers, many thought to be maritime militia, maintain a near-permanent presence there. The shoal's turquoise lagoon offers shelter in storms, its waters brim with fish, and its location is strategic, right in the middle of the South China Sea, close to shipping lanes carrying more than $3 trillion in annual trade. That combination makes it a prize both sides refuse to give up. For Beijing, the reserve frames China as guardian of the seas. For Manila, it's a sovereignty grab disguised as environmentalism. International reaction has been sharp. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio labelled China's move destabilising and coercive, reiterating Washington's defence pact with the Philippines. Analysts warn neither side wants war, but each water cannon blast risks miscalculation. For fishermen, caught in the middle, it's a fight far bigger than their boats.